Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. Qin Mu reattached Old Ma's arm and Cripple's leg, placing the two elders in the medicinal cauldron. He had boiled a full decoction to cook to the two people while asking Hu Linger to maintain the fire beside the cauldron. He walked out of the room and saw the sky turning dark outside. He went out of the courtyard and there was nobody around. They should have gone away to hide from the danger, and only Qin Devil King was still standing in the alley outside Scholar's residence, unable to move. Qin Mu went forward and opened up the god statue's stomach. Inside, there were hundreds of intricate gears, and he stretched his hands in to give the gears a few turns. Qin Devil King immediately felt his legs able to move again and hurriedly began to run. After a few steps, he heard the clacking throughout his entire body, and his joints were all locked again. "Big dragon, pull him back into the courtyard," Qin Mu told the dragon Qilin outside. The dragon Qilin wagged its tail and carried its bulging stomach forward to bite one of the legs of Qin Devil King. It then dragged him across the floor and threw him into the corner of Qin Mu's courtyard with a clank. "You be *tch, come and fight me if you have the guts." Qin Devil King scolded non-stop. "What hero are you for locking me in place?" Qin Mu turned a deaf ear to his cries and continued to mix the spirit herbs. Lightning suddenly appeared on the body of the god statue when the Devil King tried to fly out, but all kinds of runes lighted up. They were bright and contained lightning in the god statue. Qin Devil King spewed out vulgarities again. The god statue was imprinted with the sealing runes of Roland's Golden Palace. Qin Mu had learned from the treasury there and had secretly placed them on the god statue while making it. Qin Mu was worried that the Devil King could still escape after entering the god statue, so he had added this kind of rune seal. Qin Mu finished mixing the herbs and looked seriously at Qin Devil King, who was in the corner. "You shall teach me all you know about the language of Yudu, then I'll release you." "I'd be dumb to believe you," Qin Devil King retorted angrily. "Forget about tricking me again." Qin Mu had an honest face as he said sincerely, "We can sign the Pact of Earth Count if that would put you at ease." "At ease your ass." Hey, why is a Devil King like you spewing vulgarities like this?" "Vulgarities your ass. Forget about making me believe your words. If I believed you, I'd be the grandson of a tortoise." Cripple and Old Ma lay in the huge cauldron comfortably while the medicinal decoction bubbled and popped. Little Fox increased the fire. Cripple narrowed his eyes and looked at his huge golden chain floating on the water. He then turned his head around and took a glance at the complaining Qin Devil King before giving a laugh. "This brat Muir has really grown up. I thought that you and I would have to make a move to get rid of this nuisance of a Devil King, but never would have I thought he would settle it by himself. Now I'm a little worried, not for him but for the people who are against him. Come to think of it, who did he learn to be so bad from, such craftiness?" Old Ma stared at Cripple. The huge golden chain on his neck had also floated up on the water, the gold plating almost getting cooked off it. Cripple was bewildered. There are only good people in the village, so who did this brat learn to be crafty from? Could he have gotten bad after leaving the village? Old Ma continued to stare at him. Cripple smiled. "What are you looking at me for? Is there something on my face? You're making my hair stand on end with your staring. Old Ma, were you a constable in the past? Every time you look over, I can feel my hair standing up." Old Ma turned away and said indifferently, "I've been a constable for dozens of years and later held an appointment in the Government Office of Justice. After I solved a huge case and became well known, Great Thunderclap Monastery found me and I stopped working as a constable. No wonder I always feel uneasy when you look at me. The monks of Great Thunderclap Monastery sure are busybodies, coming to find you even after you return to your normal life." The two people were cooked the whole night, and during the process, Qin Mu changed the medicine a few times. When the day finally broke, Old Ma and Cripple got out and washed up. Qin Mu had already prepared breakfast, and they sat down to eat together. Hu Linger ran to help Qin Mu wash the bowls while Cripple rose with a smile. "Mua, Old Ma, and I won't stay here any longer, we're leaving." Qin Mu hurried, dried his hands and said, "I'll see Grandpa's out." Old Ma waved his hand. "There's no need. Cripple and I are at ease seeing how well you're getting by. We're both old and you can already protect yourself." Cripple still propped himself on his cane and took a look at him with a smile. "Old Ma is getting sentimental again. Oh well, come and see us off. If you don't, he will be sad for the next 2 or 3 days." Qin Mu followed them and sent them all the way down to the mountain. "Grandpa Ma, Grandpa Cripple, your arm and leg were just reattached so you won't be able to exert too much force with them. You have to nurse them for a year or 2 years, training them frequently so that no hidden dangers are left behind." Old Ma nodded. Cripple sighed. "I've gotten used to not having a leg in these 20-30 years. I'm actually not that comfortable with having the leg that was severed suddenly growing back." Old Ma felt the same. "Having been disabled for over half my lifetime, I keep feeling I have no need for this hand that has returned." Qin Mu sent them to the mountain gate, and Cripple smiled. "Go back, you don't have to send us any farther." Old Ma waved his hand. "Remember to come home for New Year's." "I'll definitely return." Qin Mu nodded seriously and saw them off. Old Ma and Cripple walked out of the capital, and Cripple sighed ruefully. "The little baby that we picked up back then has really grown up, yet we had almost sent him away back then." Old Ma agreed with a nod. "Almost. Luckily you stole him back. The little brat isn't that gullible after our teachings. I was always worried he would be at a disadvantage outside, but now I can return to the village at ease." When Cripple said this, he suddenly stopped. Old Ma also stopped. The two elders looked toward Mud River in front of them. On the river surface, a middle-aged man was standing. Despite the water churning under his feet, he didn't move an inch. Cripple raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile, "Imperial Preceptor, your injuries are healed?" Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor nodded. "My injuries are healed, how are the both of you?" Old Ma exercised his shoulders and said in a solemn voice, "We can still fight a battle." Cripple shook his leg and sighed. "Mua said not to exert too much strength, but if we were to fight, I could still use one leg." "Imperial Preceptor, you sure keep your composure. You knew we were in the room that day and knew I was the one who stole your items, but you still chose to leave and held yourself back until now. It must not have been easy." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said indifferently, "My injuries were not healed back then, so I had no choice but to back off. Both of you are seniors and not evil people. Even when you were stealing, it was for disaster relief. I don't want to make a move on both of you, so as long you hand the Emperor's disc over, I'll leave you alone. We don't need to damage our good relationship." "Emperor's disc?" Cripple and Old Ma looked at each other and smiled. "I've researched Emperor's disc, that toy, for over 20 years to no avail, so it's no problem even if I give you, however, I've already gifted it to another." "Gifted it away?" Stars suddenly appeared above Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's head, forming a bright river of stars. It was evident that his inner heart was no longer calm. "Who did you give it to?" "The Palace Grandee of your Eternal Peace Empire." Cripple chuckled and left with Old Ma. "Palace Grandee?" Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was stunned for a moment and looked at the back of the two people. He didn't make a move but said softly, "The Emperor's disc was given to him. He actually dared to take it? Is he planning to rebel? The Emperor's disc is an artifact that was given to the founding emperor by a god, and it represents the imperial power. Furthermore, it is rumored to hide a secret. Should I ask for it from him?" He stood on the heart of the river and muttered to himself for some time before shaking his head and turning to leave. Imperial power is not something that can be decided by an item, even if it's Emperor's disc. Imperial power comes from the support of people and has no relation to the Emperor's disc. In Scholar's residence, Qin Mu poured away the medicine decoction and washed the medicinal cauldron and medicinal furnace. After scrubbing them a few times until there were no more stains, he placed them under the sun to dry. Hulinga was helping to clean up when she saw a jade hoop on the table and exclaimed in astonishment. "Young master, the two elders left something behind." Qin Mu moved over to take a look and saw some writings on the jade hoop which looked very familiar. This is Grandpa Cripple's Emperor's Disc. Grandpa Cripple must have left it here. When I went into the darkness with Village Chief, Grandpa Cripple had hung this Emperor's Disc on my neck, but I didn't have to use it. Why did Grandpa Cripple leave it here? He always picks up stuff along the way and never loses anything. He shook his head and tied the Emperor's Disc to his jade pendant while thinking to himself, I'll return it to him after I return to the village. He then dragged Qin Devil King out and opened the stomach of the god statue. He did some adjustments and changed the orbit of the gears before saying, Devil King, you can move now. Qin Devil King sneered, you're playing with me, I'm not moving. Little brat, wait for my true body to descend, I'll make your life a living hell then. Hu Linga stood up and crossed her paws on her waist. My young master has 100 ways to make your life a living hell. Qin Mu said meaningfully, Linga, that's too little, how could 100 be enough? Qin Devil King chuckled. Little brat, feel free to show me what you got. If I got scared, I would disgrace my cultivation of over tens of thousands of years. Qin Mu advised him, what's the need for that? We are all from the devil path. Since I'm also of the devil path, you can just teach me the language of Yudu that you know and I'll let you off, isn't that good for both of us? Bah! Qin Devil King spat. Qin Mu sneered, I shall send you to Hall of Yang to let Monk Fa Ching chant scriptures at you every day. Monk Fa Ching loves to redeem a devil, so he will definitely be overjoyed. Qin Devil King sneered, hee, I'm a devil that has become a god, redeeming me with just that? Let that Monk Fa Ching come and let's see if he will redeem me or I will turn him into a devil. Qin Mu hesitated. Qin Devil King was really devilish, so if Monk Fa Ching came to redeem him, he might actually end up turned into a devil instead. Young master, why hasn't he turned us into devils? Hu Linga was bewildered. Qin Devil King shouted out in exasperation, you little fox devil, do you guys even need me to turn you into devils? You two were such from the very start. I admit defeat this time, just end me. Qin Mu shook his head and said softly, I'm not that kind of person. Linga, let him follow you from now on, I'll teach you how to control this mechanism. Qin Mu taught Hu Linga how to control the mechanism. He had left a control station at the chest of Qin Devil King, and by pushing a secret compartment gently, the control station would automatically pop out. The god statue mechanism that was made of winter crystal iron was extremely huge, towering 9 yards tall, and Qin Mu had spent a great deal of money for it. Just the winter crystal iron alone had cost him 10,000 great abundance coins. The parts of the god statue mechanism also numbered in thousands. There were 800 to 900 of the gears alone, making the mechanism incredibly complicated. Even if Qin Devil King wasn't willing to move, they could control him using the control station. The god statue mechanism had 8 arms and 4 faces, which looked very fierce, and it was extremely strong. Ordinary divine arts practitioners would find it hard to penetrate through the defense of winter crystal iron. At the heart of the god statue mechanism, there was a tiny pill furnace which was pretty similar to the one Qin Mu had forged for Fan Yunxiao. However, he had made the pill furnace on Fan Yunxiao's ruined ship for the first time, so he lacked experience. This time, the pill furnace was much smaller and more intricate than before. When Hu Linga sat down in the control station, she could send medicinal stones into the tiny pill furnace and use her vital chi to control the fire there. Even without Qin Devil King, she could use this god statue mechanism as a heavy armored weapon. If Qin Devil King treated the god statue mechanism as his body to help out in battle, the power he would be able to unleash would be no small matter. Divine arts practitioners of 6 Directions realm would no longer be his match, and even divine arts practitioners of 7 Stars realm couldn't say they would be able to win against him for certain. Qin Mu learned how to create this god statue mechanism from Mute, Deaf, and Old Ma. He had merely put together what the 3 of them had taught him, not creating anything new. The only creating he did was to put all of it together. However, this god statue mechanism was definitely at the level of smithing masters, mechanical masters, and rune masters. He had created a totally different type of battle method. Hu Linga was full of excitement and ignored Qin Devil King, who was in the god statue mechanism's body. She immediately sat down into the small control station to control this god statue mechanism for a trial run. Qin Mu immediately said, "Big dragon, follow her, don't let her cause any trouble." The dragon Qilin acknowledged his command and caught up to Hu Linga, who was squealing and flailing the arms of the god statue. Qin Mu looked at the back figure of the dragon Qilin and saw its tummy nearly touching the floor. "It's time for this fellow to go on a diet." Qin Mu shook his head. This dragon Qilin hadn't been very robust in the past, yet even though he frequently starved, he looked majestic and no one dared to come close to him when he was guarding the mountain. But ever since it had followed him, he never missed a scarlet fire spirit pill and drank the water of Jade Dragon River to his content. This resulted in him becoming fatter and fatter, growing in size by quite a lot. If this continued, the dragon Qilin would soon become a huge meatball with only its belly reaching the floor. It could forget about putting his claws on the floor anymore. In the past, Patriarch definitely didn't give him 1 bucket of scarlet fire spirit pills, or else this fellow would have already become as fat as a ball. He's lying about his rations. I think it's better to just give him half a bucket. Qin Mu held his breath with rapt attention and executed Overlord Body once again. He transformed into the form of Saturn Sovereign, which had a human head but the body of a snake. The apparition of the scroll took form in his hand, and a gate gradually appeared behind him. Qin Mu turned around, and his soul trembled, giving off strange sounds. It was the language of Yudu that Qin Devil King had taught him. The Devil King had called that Gate of Earth Origin, but even if he didn't know if it really meant Gate of Earth Origin, he had not learned the sentence incorrectly. He spoke out the words on the gate, and the Gate of Earth Origin gradually opened up and revealed a space of endless darkness. Qin Mu was stunned for a moment. He walked around this gate and saw he was still in his own courtyard. The gate was thin beyond belief and seemed to have no thickness. From his current angle, he could only see a thin sheet of darkness erected vertically over there. Yet when he stood in front of the gate, he could see endless darkness in front of himself. This is a gate that connects to the other world? Qin Mu was stunned. He stretched out his palm and carefully put it inside the door, but there was nothing abnormal. Is this the marvel of 5 Elements realm? Does other people's 5 Elements realm have this gate? Did anyone open and enter it before? He was a little hesitant. What would he meet after entering this gate? Would the legendary Yudu be in this darkness? Could he still live to come back after going in? Right at this moment, Qin Mu saw a light coming from the world of darkness. It was a human and a boat. On the bow of the boat hung a dim lamp, giving off a ghostly light. The little boat was floating over to him. Under the light of the lamp on the bow of the boat, there was an elder folding paper humans and paper horses. With the flickering light, the scene looked extremely tranquil. Qin Mu tried to pop his head into the gate only to see the elder taking down the lamp and shining it at him. When Qin Mu was shone upon by the light, he felt his soul being fixed in place and was unable to move. The elder on the boat hung the lamp back on the bow of the boat. When the light was no longer on Qin Mu's body, he let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, his hair stood up on end as he lowered his head to take a look and saw himself standing on the boat, right beside the elder. The little boat was turning around and hurriedly, and Qin Mu turned his head back to have a look. He could see light coming from a gate that was far away, and in front of it, he was standing and looking in. His body in front of the gate seemed to be frozen, unable to move at all. If he was still at the gate, then who was he here? He looked around, but his surroundings were just darkness. The only light came from the lamp, and that light formed the Gate of Earth Origin. His heart turned icy cold. The elder who was folding paper humans and paper horses on the boat had shone this lamp on him and spirited away his soul onto the ship. The him in front of the gate was already a body without a soul. Why did you take away my soul when I have yet to die? Qin Mu asked the elder. The elder ignored him and continued to focus on folding the paper humans and paper horses. Qin Mu turned his head back and saw that the Gate of Earth Origin was getting farther and farther away. It greatly terrified him. Qin Devil King had indeed hidden some things from him. This gate was probably not the Gate of Earth Origin, otherwise, this elder wouldn't have snatched his soul. He jumped off the ship. He was still not too far from the gate and might be able to make it back to his body. However, the moment he jumped out, he didn't fall into the water as he had expected. Surrounding the boat was darkness, boundless darkness. He was like a drowning person, flailing his arms everywhere, but there was no place for him to exert force on. He could only see himself continuing to sink, falling into the deeper and blacker darkness. He looked upwards, and the little boat in the darkness went farther and farther away from him. The light at the bow of the ship was also becoming smaller and dimmer. Gradually, the light was too tiny to be seen. Qin Devil King, that bastard, he really tricked me. Qin Mu felt as if he had fallen into a nightmare of endless darkness. He had no way to break free, no way to struggle and save himself. This was a darkness that made people lose all hope and sink into despair. Meanwhile, the boat which could carry his soul had already sailed far away. Suddenly, Qin Mu exerted all his strength to shout with his soul, shouting the language of Yudu that Qin Devil King had taught him. The cryptic pitch was suave, craggy, and impossible to pronounce, but that was because it could only be shouted out by the soul. When he finished saying this sentence, a similarly cryptic and ancient voice came from the boundless darkness. This voice was also saying the words of Yudu, but it sounded like chanting. The voice seemed like it was a forebear from the ancient times, offering lives and fresh blood as sacrifice to a dignified god that bore the weight of the world. Qin Mu immediately felt his body floating upwards, and the speed at which he was moving became faster and faster until he turned into a flash of light at the end. The shooting light whistled and flew out of the darkness, rushing into Qin Mu's body that was standing at the gate. The body trembled violently as Qin Mu gasped for breath. He was all covered in sweat as though he had just crawled out of the water. Meanwhile, behind the gate, the boat floated over once more without any hurry. The elder on the boat looked at him, but he didn't shine his lamp at him this time. Qin Mu stood in front of that gate, ready to disperse his Saturn sovereign's form any time to let the gate disappear when he asked, "Dao brother, what's the meaning of your sentence?" That elder's gaze landed on his body and the little boat turned its direction to sail towards the darkness. Earth is the great origin. All things owe to it their birth, receiving obediently the influence of heaven. Earth, in its largeness, supports and contains all things. Its excellent capacity matches the unlimited power. Its comprehension is wide, and its brightness is great. The various things in it obtain their full development. The mare is a creature of earthly kind. Its power of moving on the earth is without limit. It is mild and docile, advantageous and firm. Such is the course of the superior man. If he takes the initiative, he goes astray and misses his proper course. If he follows, he is docile and gets into his regular course. The sentence that you said was none other than Earth is the great origin. If you had said it earlier, I wouldn't have taken your soul. That boat sailed farther and farther away before gradually disappearing. The elder's voice traveled over a great distance, growing faint. This gate is Yudu's gate of heaven influence, its Earth origin heaven influence. Ghosts can enter, but it's not a place you can enter. Qin Devil King had really wanted to harm me. Qin Mu was furious, but then he burst out laughing. Luckily my life was not lost, so I can just slowly deal with him. My soul seems to have changed a little. He felt that his soul had become much stronger after the journey to Yudu. Qin Mu was stunned. When he executed Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique, he felt an indescribable power coming from the gate of heaven influence which was nourishing his soul. He couldn't help being stunned. Even though Qin Devil King had lied to him, not all his words were untruths. Qin Devil King had been right. Knowing the words on this gate and opening the gate could indeed allow his cultivation to have no shortcomings, so he could be even greater than Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor in this realm. Saturn's sovereign's form of his 5 elements realm was of utmost importance to him since it was crucial for his soul cultivation. After quite some time, Qin Mu felt his soul become more and more stable. When he looked at the scroll in his hand, the words there became clearer, showing him weird letters that had the shapes of birds, beasts, fish, sun, and moon. Even though he didn't recognize them, his gaze swept past them as though he knew what they meant. The marvel of the words on the scroll then automatically became part of his knowledge. There weren't many words on the scroll, and Qin Mu gave the writing a quick once-over. Instantly, various types of cultivation logic regarding the soul appeared in his mind. Duqian Devil King had told him that there were spells of voodoo on the scroll, but it showed up that was just another lie to entice him. At least there is still 1 sentence out of 10 I say that is true. Since in Duqian Devil King's speech only 1 sentence among 100 of them is true, Qin Mu thought to himself. Out of all the things he said to me, only the language of voodoo was true, everything else was a lie. He analyzed the scroll in detail. If he comprehended the entire marvel of the writings there, he could indeed comprehend some spells regarding souls. However, the most important use of this scroll was to strengthen the soul, while the soul spell was only secondary. Qin Mu memorized the writings on the scroll and closed it to meditate. He tried to figure out the marvel of the writings, trying to comprehend a kind of soul spell. Great educational heavenly devil scriptures had spells related to soul, and barbarian Di Empire also had these kinds of spells. The thunderclap 8 strikes that Old Ma had taught him, as well as the great freedom mudra of the devil race, were also spells that were targeted at souls. Soul Guide of 9 Spectres sect was an even more outstanding divine art. If he could compare the runes of the words, he could increase his power. Qin Mu thought for a long time before slowly walking into his courtyard. With every action and step, he incorporated the words of voodoo into the move Sunshine Refining Yang Soul in the Sky. This was one of the moves of Thunderclap 8 Strikes, the greatest battle technique in Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Its power was strong and fierce since it had been improved by the previous generations of Rulai to its extreme, to the point it couldn't be improved anymore. Yet now, Qin Mu was improving this move. He had never cultivated Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, but ever since great educational heavenly devil scriptures had fused with Overlord Body 3 elixir technique and unified all skills, the power of Thunderclap 8 Strikes had become stronger and stronger, being no weaker than of those who cultivated Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. He practiced move after move, one punch after another. With the fist as heart mudra and the heart mudra as the sun, every punch gave off the sound of rolling thunder and the intensity of the blazing sun. As the Yang soul was refined, the power was gradually raised. The move Sunshine Refining Yang Soul in the Sky had not much use against the corporeal body. Even if it looked powerful, it was only targeted at the soul. Qin Mu practiced this move over and over again, and a trace of fire was gradually forced out from the fist mudra. This flame was different from ordinary flames, it was the karma fire that burns the soul. Every punch of his brought along karma fire, and gradually, the karma fire became more and more intense, turning the surroundings of the fist into a blazing scarlet-red sun. The more he punched, the more he used to it he got, which left him unable to resist howling endlessly. Suddenly, a huge sun exploded out in the sky, and flames surged forth in all directions, covering the entire courtyard in karma fire. Qin Mu retracted his stance back and let out a shallow breath. Suddenly, his heart wavered and he opened his door to see Sword Hall Master walking over with quick steps. Qin Mu invited him in and asked, "Sword Hall, what's the rush?" "Heavenly King Lu is injured," Sword Hall said in a low voice, his expression solemn. "He's at my place now and wants to meet Cult Master. His condition is very bad." Qin Mu's heart leaped out, and he hurried out of his courtyard with Sword Hall. "Cult Master, I'm embarrassed to meet you with these injuries since I can't greet you due to their severity," Heavenly King Lu said with embarrassment as he lay on the bed and struggled to get up yet was unable to. Qin Mu shook his head and went forward to check on his injuries, frowning slightly. The man's clothes were tattered, and there were even bloodstains on his white hair and beard. Heavenly King Lu's injuries were even worse than those of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. He must have been injured by fighting with a few strong practitioners of the Cult Master level. His injuries were not only on the physical body, but even his divine treasures were injured. The damage to his soul was also extremely serious. All of his 7 great divine treasures had suffered devastating blows. His spirit embryo was petrified, 3 of his 5 element gods were destroyed, only 2 pillars of his 6 directions divine treasure were left, while his 7 stars divine treasure, celestial being divine treasure, life and death realm were crushed in their entirety. The only flying bridge in his divine bridge realm was also broken. It would have been fine if it was only these injuries, but the crucial point was that he was already old and his body was no longer like it was in the past. It was difficult for his physical body to hold together his soul, which was about to crumble. Heavenly King Lu took in a deep breath and said, "Cult Master, I've located Heavenly King Qian's whereabouts. Stop talking first." Qin Mu took out 2 bottles of dragon saliva to heal the injuries on his body. He then let him drink another bottle and muttered to himself irresolutely while writing down the names of herbs, telling Sword Hall Master to grab them from the warehouse. As for whether those herbs could heal Heavenly King Lu, he had no certainty. The best result would be him surviving but becoming useless, while the worst result. Sword Hall Master left in a hurry. The injuries on Heavenly King Lu's body got better, but those on his soul and divine treasures became even more serious as he panted. Heavenly King Qian has already died. I followed his trail, but someone used his clothes to bring me on a wild goose chase that led into an ambush. Qin Mu frowned. Who ambushed you? They didn't reveal their faces, but I recognized their divine arts. Heavenly King Lu's body contorted. This was due to the injuries bursting forth in his soul and causing him pain. Heavenly King Lu gritted his teeth and endured it. His white hair shook along with his body as he chuckled. They did it for the art of teleportation of our sacred cult. Cult Master, I can't assist you anymore. I'm ashamed for failing Patriarch's instructions. Don't worry, you won't die or become disabled. The corners of Qin Mu's eyes twitched as he said in a low voice, "Even if you die, I'll drag your soul back from Yudu." One of the people that injured me was a first-ranking high official of the Imperial Court. Heavenly King Lu regained his composure. I recognized his technique, which was spirit treasure unmovable meditation technique. Among the first-ranking high officials, Sun Nantuo, the Grand Preceptor of the Crown Prince, has refined this technique to its extreme. Sitting on his 1,000-banner pagoda, his spirit treasure is unmovable. Qin Mu made swift moves, his hands dotting on Heavenly King Lu's body. His 10 fingers moved up and down, leaving after images. In an instant, he sealed Heavenly King Lu's soul in his body, preventing it from leaving. He used Heavenly Devil creation technique, which was used by the higher-ups in Heavenly Devil cult to strip the skin and make clothing. However, in his hand, it was a life-saving method. Heavenly King Lu's 3 souls and 7 spirits were sealed, but it was still difficult for Qin Mu to stop the momentum of his soul dispersing. Cult Master, even though you're a divine physician, you won't be able to save a person that's going to die. Heavenly King Lu revealed a smile and got down from the bed with his trembling body. Once he sat down on the ground, a rosy color appeared on his face as he smiled. There's no need for you to waste your energy. My soul is going to disperse soon and my divine bridge is broken anyway. I can't endure it anymore. I thought I could assist Cult Master to help our sacred cult prosper after Patriarch had left, but never would I have thought that I wouldn't be able to see that day. Crumbling sounds came from his body. It was his divine bridge, divine treasure starting to crumble when its support was lost. The crumbling divine bridge, divine treasure crushed the life and death divine treasure, which crushed the celestial being divine treasure. The divine treasures crumbled one after another. Sorrow filled Qin Mu's heart. Now even the herb Sword Hall Master retrieved wouldn't be able to save him. Blazing flames burst out of Heavenly King Lu's body. His soul was shredded, and this kind of shred was irreversible. His injuries were too serious, especially those on his soul. It was on the verge of dispersing. If his soul dispersed, he wouldn't be able to enter Yudu. He couldn't even become a ghost then. The blazing sacred fire, incinerate my broken body, Heavenly King Lu muttered in the blazing fire. Life and death are impermanent, and partings are inevitable. I won't be able to see you become the sacred teacher. How I wish to return to Saint Arrival Mountain to see the sacred teacher tree. I can almost hear the woodcutter cutting into its wood. That elder shuddered in the fire, then revealed a smile. Cult Master, I'm very cold. Qin Mu stretched his palm out, wanting to grab the elder's hand, but all he grabbed was ashes. The blazing fire dissipated, and all it left behind were grey-white ashes. The sound of Sword Hall Master's footsteps came from outside, and he rushed in while carrying big and small packages of herbs. Qin Mu turned around and said with a stupefied expression, Sword Hall, there's no need for them anymore. Heavenly King Lu has already gone to heaven. The packages of herbs dropped to the ground from Sword Hall Master's hands. This 9 feet burly man knelt down on the ground and bowed deeply. His shoulders trembled continuously, but no cries came out. After some time, Qin Mu swept Heavenly King Lu's ashes up and placed them into a green jar, then stood in a daze in front of it. He had been pushed into his current position out of nowhere, sold by Granny Sai to Heavenly Devil Cult, and still muddle-headed became the cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult. He didn't have much sentiments with Heavenly Devil Cult, only with Granny Sai and the young patriarch. However, as he learned more and more about Heavenly Devil Cult, he gradually fell in love with the cult's doctrine and the interesting people in the cult. He admired their conduct and way of handling things. He already treated himself as one of the members of Heavenly Devil Cult, trying his best to become a qualified sacred cult master. Qin Mu hadn't spent much time with Heavenly Devil Lu. The other had treated him less like the sacred cult master and more like a mischievous disciple, cleaning up the mess he had left behind in Saint Arrival Mountain. The old man was like an elder who doted on the younger generation, having eyes full of admiration. And now, he had died, become a pile of ashes in the green jar. Sword Hall, a trace of sharpness appeared in Qin Mu's blank gaze, and he said slowly, "Order the disciples to gather all the resources and investigate. I want all the information available on Sun Nantuo, the Grand Preceptor of the Crown Prince. His entire life, his family, his sect, his disciples, everything about him." Sword Hall Master rose. "As Cult Master's commands." Qin Mu continued, "Bring Heavenly King Lu back as well. He wants to return to the side of the sacred teacher tree. You shall bury him there." Sword Hall Master brought the green jar away. Qin Mu walked out of Sword Hall's residence and found Sai Yunxiang, who had returned from the floor of Heavenly Record to take back his book tablet. He then headed to the floor of Heavenly Record. There, he came to the 3rd level where there were not many classics. There were only 100 scrolls in this place, and many white-haired secretaries were researching all kinds of techniques to push out old ideas and bring in new ones. Qin Mu found Spirit Treasure Unmovable Meditation Technique and studied it carefully. He didn't sleep or rest, but studied for 2 days straight. He then walked out of floor of Heavenly Records, returning to his residence to sleep. The next day, Sword Hall Master brought a thick dossier over. Qin Mu read through it while paying attention to every detail, spending half a day to look through everything gathered on Sun Nantuo. He then closed his eyes. Sword Hall Master had waited beside him quietly through it all, and after some time, Qin Mu opened his eyes and said, "Nantuo Monastery, Sun Nantuo, Spirit Treasure Unmovable Meditation Technique." The impact would be too huge if we eliminated his whole family in the capital city, so we'll do it outside. This video will end here.